sorry I didn't see you guys come in. Are you my last appointment? Let's see. Yeah, we got a few minutes left. I'm assuming you guys are the last appointment. Come on in, sit down. Welcome to my office. um, I know you guys probably heard about what happened, but as soon as we finished the exam the other day, when I went to take you all out for a break, the fire alarm went off, as you all know, and so I didn't get to do the results, so I apologize about that. But as you may have gotten in your email, what I'm going to do, what I've been doing, is just taking in different groups, small groups throughout the day in the office, and we're just going to do the review work and the answers. It's not really answers, you know what I mean? We're going to do that just individually. So welcome to the small group. This is going to be real relaxed, so make yourself at home, get comfortable. Excuse me. I'm a little under the weather right now, so I'm going to need this. Give me just a second. Hopefully, you all brought your paperwork with you from the exam. I'll just review for just a second. Let's see. I think I have yours here. Give me just a second. Yeah, I do. I got yours. No, I don't. Did you send yours to me? I printed yours out. I got you. Hold on just a second. I do. Okay. Here's yours. And here is yours. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to keep you guys long. I know you're ready to get out of here. Go home. I know I am. But what I wanted to do is just talk to you a little bit about your answers. Like I said before, I don't want you to feel like this is a pass or fail situation. I know some of you had written me emails saying that you were a little nervous about what your answers might say about you. And that's okay. That's all right. It's what it is. It's just a learning opportunity. So really, I want you to just relax a little bit. Take these results, like I said, as a growing process. Either be really proud of who you are and just embrace that, or if you see something you don't like in the results, figure out ways that you can better yourself. I know that's what happened to me when I took the exam for the first time. I remember seeing some of the negatives of my personality type and thinking, is that the way other people see me? And through that, I was able to pay better attention in just my day-to-day life. What I do that might hurt other people that I don't even realize is happening. Also, what I need in return from other people so that I'm satisfied as a person. So, okay. You had, if you'll remember, you look at your answer sheets. You had 40 questions total. At the testing session, I asked you to add all those up and make sure that the total number that you have is 40. You also should have 4 letter groupings. You may have a 0 beside one. Oh, that's fine. The 4 letters again are S, C, M, and P. You should have those 4 letters with 4 numbers written beside those letters. Make sure those 4 numbers add up to 40. It's as easy as that. And then I'll basically just tell you what each of those means, what they say. Okay? Are we ready to get started? Oh no, I'm ready to get home too. I still gotta go home and cook dinner. Woo. Maybe I'll ask the old man to take me out tonight. Okay, so let's get started. Did any of you guys have S's? Just go raise your hand if you had an S. All right. S means sanguine. And if you want to write it down, if you're taking notes, it's SANGUINE, sanguine. Now, some of these words you're going to hear other people pronounce differently. That's fine. I'm not, I'm not the final word on linguistics, but this is the way I was taught in school, in college. The C is choleric. It may also be pronounced choleric, and it's spelled CHOLERIC. The M is melancholy. That's MELANCHOLY, melancholy. And the last one, P, is phlegmatic. PHLEGMATIC. Simple. Okay. So now what I want you to do is just realize which one you have the most of. If yours breaks down where you have 20 in one and 20 in another, that means you're probably about even on those two. So that's okay. If you're right at about even, if it's 18 and 22 or whatever, that's all right. Just go with that. When you hear the words called out, you'll know that you're somewhere in the middle there. If you have a 0, or maybe just a 1 or a 2 in some columns, I know that's true for me, that's okay. That column probably doesn't apply to you. And what you'll probably realize while I'm talking is that a lot of these you'll think, oh, I know that person. I know exactly who that is, or that's not me at all. I can't believe that. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is if you have that issue. Okay. I think I'm going to start with just the basics for you, since you guys are a 101 class, and then after that we'll skip around. Okay, if you had the most S's, these should be some of your strengths in your life. And if you, again, don't think this is accurate for you, then maybe either rethink some of the answers on your quiz or wait just a little bit and we'll talk about why that might be. So see if this describes you. What your test says about you. Dun, dun, dun. S, sanguine. When you're talking about your emotions and dealing with your emotions, you have an appealing personality. You're talkative, a storyteller. You can be the life of the party and have a great sense of humor. You have an important memory for color. You physically hold on to your listener. When you tell that story, people want to hear the end of it. You're sometimes emotional, a bit demonstrative. You're enthusiastic and expressive when you say things. Your personality bubbles over in the room. Cheerful, can be curious. Oftentimes, whether you know it or not, you're good on stage. Some people can think of you as wide-eyed and innocent. That's not always true, but you come across that way to certain people. You live in the here and now, the present. You don't want to dwell on the past. You want to just live for today. You are sincere at heart. When it comes to how you actually feel, you're very sincere. And you're always just one of the big kids. People describe you, oh, he's just a big kid, or she's just a big kid. When it comes to work, sorry about that. When it comes to work, your work ethic, you'll volunteer for jobs quite often. You think up lots of new activities. You look great on the surface, so when you go in for a job interview, you wow them right up front. Creative, colorful, full of enthusiasm, lots of energy. You always start your jobs in a big flashy way. People know when you get there. You can inspire others to join, and you're a charmer. You charm others into your way of thinking. When it comes to your friendships, this can also be your relationships. You make friends very easily, and you like having friends. You love people, and Oftentimes you'll thrive on what other people are saying about you. You want their compliments. You want to hear how good you've done at something. You are often, because you're the life of the party, you are seen as being really exciting, and a lot of times other people will envy that about you. You don't tend to hold grudges for very long. Again, that living in the present thing, you just let things go sometimes. You're also quick to forgive. You want to forgive. You want to see the best in people. You usually prevent dull moments from happening, and you like spontaneity in your activities. These are all the positive things. These are great things about sanguines. Like I said, the life of the party, people want you to be around. Now, when it comes to weaknesses, see if this is you. Again, this is your S, your sanguine. When it comes to your emotions, you're often the compulsive talker in the room. You exaggerate and elaborate on stories when you're telling them. You like to dwell on trivia, which is interesting. Probably a lot of that has to do with you want to impress the people around you. You often can't remember names. That could have something to do with how many friends you have, or how quickly you move through a party, meeting lots of different people. You have a tendency to be really restless energy, almost too much for some people. You're too happy for some, you're too restless for some, you're too much of a free spirit for some, and that can tend to scare people off. I'm sorry to say this, but a bit egotistical at times. And that's okay if you don't think you are. Just breathe, don't get mad. Sometimes can be a bit of a complainer. Bluster, likes to cause a fuss, cause a stir. You are a bit of naive, can get taken in. I think it's because you want to see good things in people. You hope that everybody's good. You have a loud voice, a loud laugh. When you walk in a room, people know you're there. You can get controlled by your circumstances, which sometimes tends to make you angered easily. Just spur of the moment anger. But again, not things that you hold on to. It's not really a grudge that you hold. It's just like a quick little time bomb. Some people think that you're a bit phony and feel like you need to grow up. If you've ever heard that, you should grow up. You're such a big kid. Again, that can be a weakness to some. In the workplace, sometimes your boss might say you'd rather talk than do your work. You forget your obligations and promises. You don't follow through with tasks, and a lot of times the confidence that you first come into a job with tends to fade once you get there. You can be a bit undisciplined. That's going back to the kid-like behavior. Your priorities can be out of order. You can be distracted easily. You put a lot of your feelings into your work instead of just being there for the work. You often put feelings ahead of things. And then in your friendships, your relationships, you hate to be alone. And I know that's a problem for some. You need to be center stage. You want to be popular. You want to get the credit for things. When things happen, you want to be the one that gets the credit. You tend to interrupt and not listen to other people. You like to dominate conversations. In big groups or small groups, you are often the loudest voice. Sometimes you answer for others around you if they're not quick enough with their answers. And you can be fickle and forgetful, and also tend to make some excuses for your behavior. As you can probably guess, this sanguine is a popular person. You are an extrovert. You live for today. So if you found yourself with mostly S's, or a majority of S's, you're probably in this category. And we'll talk a little bit more about it and what it means for you in a little bit, but that's your S's. Next we'll do the C's, choleric or choleric, whichever you'd like to say. All right, here we go. You are a born leader. You're dynamic and active. Compulsive need for change. You constantly want to be, let's move on, let's do this, let's go through it, let's find another way to do it. If there's a wrong, you have to correct strong-willed and very decisive. You know exactly what you want and you're going to get it done no matter what. Sometimes you can be unemotional, which makes people feel like you're a bit of a robot, like a control robot. Um, you're not easily discouraged, so that go-getter attitude, like I said, you're going to get it done, you're determined. You work independently, which is great. You're self-sufficient, which is nice for a lot of people. You exude confidence. You just, when you walk in a room, people know this person's going to get it done. And you can run just about anything. A lot of times people will refer to this person as the cocky one in the group. And rightfully so. Usually this person can lead quite well. You're goal-oriented. You tend to see the whole picture, which is great. To be able to look at something and get from the beginning what needs to be done. You organize well. You seek practical solutions for the problems around you. You are quick to action. If you see the problem, you're going to do it. You're going to fix it. But you don't have a problem delegating. You know, you can do this and you can do this and you can do this. You're very quick to handle situations like that. You do insist on production. If that happens, if you delegate those jobs, you want production. You want to reach the goal. No matter what, you want to be able to reach your goal. You do stimulate activity around you, and actually, when opposition arises, when there's a problem, you thrive on that. It's what pushes you to do better. You tend to not have a big need for friends. Because you're doing it yourself, because you're capable, you don't really have a need for friends. That doesn't mean you don't want them, but you don't need them around. You like to lead and organize. You're usually right, like I mentioned, and you excel in emergency situations. Like I said, you're just going to get it done. They're not going to hold back. Sometimes, here's your weaknesses, folks. And again, please don't be mad at me. It's not anything to take personally. If you don't like it, maybe ask somebody, do you think, is this me? Does this sound like me? And if it's something you're not crazy about, work on it. You can always better yourself. Always, we'll get to that. Okay, so these are some of the weaknesses. You tend to be a bit bossy, a bit impatient with other people when they're not doing it your way, the right way. You tend to want to move them along. Quick-tempered, and you find it hard to relax, especially when there's work to be done. You don't want to sit back. You want to keep moving. You, like I said about thriving in emergencies, you look for conflict. Sometimes you enjoy that argument, that pull and push in the workplace, in your relationships. And like I said, you thrive on that. Even when you're losing, you don't tend to give up. You want to push until you feel you're right, until the other person says you're right. You can come on a bit too strong for people, and you are very inflexible. You do not want to bend on any of your issues. That could be politics, religion, whatever. You're not going to bend on that. You're not very complimentary. That tends to stem from you feel like a job is to be done and to be done right, and you do jobs right, so they should do them right, and they don't need to be complimented for that. They just need to do their work. So as a boss, a lot of times you'll hear, he doesn't praise me enough. You just don't see the need for that. Not really big into tears and emotions. Often very turned off by this in friends, in relationships. The person that comes to you crying is not going to be your first pick. You're unsympathetic, basically. Okay. In your workplace, little tolerance for mistakes. I think that goes without saying, but if you see other people making mistakes because you're usually right, you don't have very much patience with that. You oftentimes will overlook the details of things. Because you are so confident that you know how to do this, sometimes you just overlook the details and you get just right into it. You're often bored by trivia. tedious. You don't like that kind of stuff. And you also may make rash decisions because you want to move it along. You don't want to sit and ponder over things. You want to get it done. People may view you as rude, sometimes tactless. Again, it all stems back to that. You know what you want and you're going to get it. Tend to manipulate people just a little bit. A manipulator of sorts, often very demanding of other people. And if you think about it, that just kind of fits in with this personality. Oftentimes, these are the people that, especially as a spouse, work becomes God because that's what drives you. That's the highest pedestal. If you can excel at work, then that's the best you can be. And you also, because of that, demand loyalty in the ranks. So, don't let me step on your toes here. Deep breath. Tend to use people. If you see that there is a need for that person, you will put that person to that need, basically. Dominates others. Again, just a little bossy. You often decide things for others because you are so decisive. If somebody else is making, a choice and they're floundering back and forth, you'll make that decision for them. You tend to come across as a know-it-all. Maybe you actually know everything. Hold on just a second. Can you ask the next group? I think they're here for the study session. Can you ask them to just keep it down out there? I would appreciate that. Yeah, this group's got a few more minutes, so if you'll just ask those kids to wait down the hall. Thank you. Yeah, you can shut the door. Thanks. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh, sometimes you can be too independent, possessive of your friends, also your loved ones. The tendency that they're yours. That's because you're in control, that they're your property, your possession, and that can be a good thing. A lot of people like that feeling of someone wanting to own them, wanting to be in control. Some people, that's too much. Oftentimes you can't say I'm sorry. Saying I'm sorry would mean that you were wrong, and because cholerics don't like to be wrong, there you go. Oftentimes, even if you're right, if it makes people uncomfortable, if it is the unpopular answer, you don't care because it's important to you to be right. So you'll stick to that. You'll stick to your guns, I guess is the cliche way to say it. Okay. If you are in the P group, phlegmatic. Phlegmatic kind of sounds like a vacuum cleaner. The phlegmatic. Get out your papers now, and if you want to take notes, if you're a P, here it comes. Okay, so far we've covered popular, the sanguines, which are the popular people. We've covered the cholerics, which are the powerful people in the groups, the bosses usually. So these are the phlegmatics. Okay, these are some strengths, and here's what's going to be interesting at the end. If you are, like, let's just for instance say you're a C. When you hear the strengths of the P's, you're going to think those aren't strengths, those are weaknesses. They need to get their act together. But if you're a P, you're thinking, oh yeah, that's cool. That's very chill. That's me. That's awesome. I'm so awesome. So it's an interesting thing to be able to see it through somebody else's eyes. Okay, so here are the phlegmatics. Strengths. A very low-key personality. Very easygoing, relaxed, calm, cool. I kind of picture like a recliner, an easy chair when I think of the phlegmatic. Collected, patient, well-balanced. They don't get their feathers ruffled very easily. They have a pretty consistent life. Day-to-day activities, they don't mind just doing the same thing day in and day out as long as nothing major changes and upsets them. They're often quiet people, but like on the surface they're quiet, and then if you get to know them, they tend to be quite witty, maybe sarcastic, dry humor kind of a thing. You're probably sitting there thinking, yeah, I know these people, or you are one. They tend to be very sympathetic at times and kind to people. I think, however, that probably stems from not really caring about fighting. You know what I mean? They're so laid back, so chill. Um, they oftentimes keep their emotions hidden, which can be a positive thing. Um, like I said about being consistent in their lives, they're happy about that. They are happy that they have found their rhythm in life. They're happy not to rock the boat. Um, and let's see, they are oftentimes very competent, steady because of this. If you hire someone who's a phlegmatic and they're good at what they do, you can pretty much expect that that's their work ethic. They are peaceful, agreeable. They're kind of yes men. You know what I mean? They don't want to rock the boat, so they're gonna agree with you. As long as you are kind to them. They're good with administration. Like not the details of administration, but just the day-to-day organization of like standing in a room and filing things, because that's just so laid back. There's nothing heavy duty about that. Nobody's going to come in and start yelling, so they really like that a lot. There a lot of times people go to them as mediators for problems, um, because they seem so calm and relaxed. They're like Switzerland, you know what I mean? They're middle of the ground, middle of the way in their thoughts. They like to avoid conflicts. If there's pressure around, they're good about that. They're good under pressure. They don't want to stir the pot. They will always find the easy way, amazingly enough. If there's a difficult way, if there's a rocky road, it's twisty and curvy, or just a straight, easy sail, they're going to take the straight, easy way every time. They're pretty easy to get along with. They're pleasant. They're not really interested in offending people unless the wit comes in and is a quiet way to offend people. Like they won't openly, they're not blatant with it. They might throw a witty comment your way under their breath. I sometimes think about Jerry Seinfeld when I think about that, just throwing in a little quiet, sarcastic remark there. They're often good listeners. Sometimes this can be, you think they're good listeners, but really they're just sitting back in their easy chair, not really caring. But they're good to talk to. Like I said about the wit, they have a very dry sense of humor. They enjoy people watching, again, because it's a quiet, subdued kind of action. They're the ones sitting on the bench in the mall, just kind of chilling out. They're not really judging. They're not that group. They're just watching people do what they do. They often have a lot of friends and they can have compassion for people. And here's where their weaknesses come in. Oftentimes they are unenthusiastic. They don't get stirred up about stuff. They're just too laid back for some. They can be fearful and worried. Usually a secret thing. It's usually something inside of them. I don't really know how to explain that. It's kind of just something you have to feel. I think it's because they don't get stirred up. There's something inside of them that is like waiting to be stirred up, but they don't like it. They can be very indecisive. They have that, whatever, I don't care. What do you want on your pizza? Whatever, because they don't care. They avoid responsibility at all costs. They don't want to be in charge. Do not put them in charge. They can be selfish, because they like comfort. They don't want that to change, so don't sit in their chair, don't touch their remote, don't eat their box of cookies, just leave their stuff alone. Sometimes people can think they're too shy, too reserved. It's almost like a will of iron that they can't be cracked. Some people can take it even as like a personal attack against them, like they're snobbing, they're being a snob. Sometimes they can come across as self-righteous. I think it's because they won't argue or they don't like to argue, so it just kind of seems like they think they're right, and that's the end of the story. So, don't bother them anymore. At the workplace, these are struggles, not very goal-oriented. Don't just let them free with a project and say, you do it. They're not go-getters. They're not going to do that. They lack that self-motivation that comes in being a go-getter. They're hard to get moving. They can tend to come across as lazy at work. They do not like being pushed. If they are being lazy, if they are laid back, do not push at them. If you're a spouse of one of these people and they're sitting on their couch and you've asked them 10 times, they're the ones that are just going to sit there quietly and ignore you, basically, when you ask them 100 times to fix the light bulb or whatever. They can tend to be careless. They can often discourage others without even meaning to. Sometimes they're just kind of drab and it pulls other people down. They'd rather sit on the sidelines and watch. They'd rather watch you seize. You cholerics out there, they'd rather sit and watch you guys, get some popcorn, and they just sit there and watch while you guys do the hard work for them. In relationships, they tend to dampen enthusiasm. If you are the sanguine and you come in and you're excited about a party and you really want to get things going, and they're going to just kind of put a damper on it because they're not going to get excited with you on that. They pretty much stay uninvolved because of that. They're not very exciting. They're indifferent to plans that come up. Like I said, they do the whatever, I don't care, whatever, and they don't mean to be ugly. It just comes across that way. They can tend to judge others. I think it's part of that dry wit, the sarcastic, under their breath, offhanded comments. It comes across as judging. And they don't like change because, obviously change would just mess up their day completely. Okay, so that's your P's. All right, the last one is the M's, and that's melancholy. And I always think melancholy sounds a little bit like a vegetable, like broccoli or something, but melancholy. Okay, strengths. Deep and thoughtful, very analytical. They probably overthink. They think about everything and play it out in their mind over and over again. They're very serious, sometimes brooding. It's how they'll be mysterious, thoughtful. There's always a purpose to what they're doing. They can tend to be genius prone, probably because of this thinking things through so much. This is going to be your creative group, the artistic group, the talented group. A lot of times you'll find musicians, writers, even like art, like builders and painters and those kinds of things will fall into this category. Not always, it's not by the book, but a lot of times they'll be in this category. They can be poetic, philosophical. They see the beauty in things and appreciate it. It's not that they are just, oh, this is a tree and it's beautiful, but if you point it out to them, they can appreciate that you see that beauty. In that they're very sensitive to others, probably too sensitive. They tend to be idealistic when they think things through. If things do not happen just the way they see fit, that can trouble them. They are also very self-sacrificing, which, is a strength. They see that as a strength. In the workplace, these are the schedule people. These are the people that want to write it up on the board. Let's make a pie chart. Let's schedule that. Let's put it in my day calendar. These are the melancholies. Tend to be a bit of a perfectionist with very high standards that they'd like for you to meet. With the schedule orienting, Details, details, details. They're the ones that will always ask the questions. When the boss is finished talking, then they're the ones that, okay, when you said 7 o'clock, did you mean like 5 minutes before? What were you thinking? And where exactly in the building do you want us to do that? Those are the details they want to be involved in. And they are persistent and thorough, and they will push through until they find these answers and until they get what they need, what they want. They're orderly, they're organized. A lot of times their desks are going to be the ones where everything has compartments. They're the ones on like Pinterest, for instance, that, oh, let me see how I can organize my drawer space. How can I better organize my closets? Some people don't care two flips about this stuff. Melancholies care and actually get excited about it. They can tend to be economical, which can get on people's nerves. They will cut coupons if it helps, the family. They oftentimes can see the problem and they enjoy finding a creative solution to that. A lot of times it's because they've thought things through so much that they do figure out the problems. They're the ones ahead of time that are thinking, okay, we're going to the beach. What will we need? We got to make sure we pack suntan lotion and chairs and towels, while maybe your phlegmatic will go, let's just get in the car and go. If they start something, they need to finish it or it will just eat away at them. They are very cautious about making friends. Again, over analyzing everything. They don't want to do it wrong, so they pick friends carefully. Oftentimes, they're content to stay in the background. If you're at a party, they might be the ones at the back table. They avoid causing attention. They do not want to draw eyes to them. So again, sitting at the back table with a drink or a cigarette or whatever, they're not going to be the ones up on the bar dancing. They might be on the stage singing, but that's if they really feel that, if they really appreciate the beauty of the moment, that kind of thing. They are, as far as friendships go, they're very faithful, very devoted. Once they've made a friend in you, you're not going to shake them. I mean, these are people that will be faithful to you till the end. They like to listen to your complaints, probably because they feel like somehow they can help you solve these problems. They have a deep concern. They also are really good with empathy. You'll see them crying through compassion for something that's not even related to them, just because they feel. Everything is a feeling to them. And when it comes to mating, they really want to find the ideal person. You know what I mean? They have this picture out there of who this is supposed to be, and they want to mold him and pick out just the perfect mate, or they won't go for that. Weaknesses. I'm sure you can see it coming like a train. Because they are so deep and analytical, they will hold on to the negatives. They see the negatives and they hold them in their brains. A little compartment over here somewhere that just sinks in and they don't forget them. They tend to be very moody, very depressed. If you know a musician, this might be that person. This might sound crazy, but they enjoy being hurt. It's almost like a martyr issue, like dramatic. You know what I mean? They're the people that are like, oh, so-and-so left me and I'll never go on again. That kind of have a flair for the dramatic. They can have a false humility. They can be off in another world, a little bit spacey. Kind of in a Luna Lovegood kind of way, just, I'm, out here. Usually because their brain is so far, thinking about so many things. They tend to have a low self-image. I don't know what this stems from, but good grief. They think low of themselves. Probably my favorite weakness of theirs is the selective hearing. It's not really an issue of hearing, it's just that they are very good at tuning out what they don't want to hear, which I think is really funny. They can tend to be self-centered and introspective, way too introspective. It just all stems back to that deep thinking that it's me and it's my problems in the world. When people joke about first world problems, these are the people that, oh, my car didn't start this morning, and it turns into this whirlwind of horrible problems and big issues, and it's all about me, 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 me. Meanwhile, the person at the next desk might be, their parents might be dying or something from cancer. You know what I mean? It's all internal. They only see themselves. Um, they often have guilt feelings. It goes back to the remembering wrongs and the dramatic. They, if there's something that they can feel guilty about, they will. They'll apologize 100 times. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Do you forgive me? I'm so sorry. Almost to the point of being really annoying. That it's the persecution complex. If you're familiar with that, it's the martyrdom. It's my fault. It's my fault. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. These are the people. These are the people that have a tendency to be a hypochondriac. They're the ones that if they see a disease online, it's automatically, oh wait, I might have that. I had a backache once. I might have this disease. I have a bump. I don't know what it is, but it might be this. Thinking too hard. Thinking too hard. When it comes to work, they're not people oriented. Like I said about they make friends cautiously. These are the people at work that probably eat lunch by themselves. They I don't know how to explain that. They just if they're at work, they're focused on their work. They don't need to be bothered by trivial things, trivial people. They can get depressed over imperfections if they have a zit on their wedding day, that it's like the most tragic thing that's ever happened to them ever. They're hesitant to start new projects, and it's not because they're lazy, although it may seem that way. It's really a fear of failure at the end, and if they cannot finish something or they don't think that they can finish something, then they just won't start. So they just have a hesitancy to start new projects. They spend way too much time planning a thing. There's nothing free about them. They're so weighted down in planning and strategery. They are self-deprecating. They're hard to please. They put themselves down, but then you also have a hard time pleasing them as well. They're not pleased with anything. They're not pleased with themselves. They're not pleased with you. It's a dark life for a melancholy. They have standards that are way too high for themselves. For other people, people are not going to match up. They're not going to match up to these high standards. And they have a deep need for approval from others, which is that's the catch-22. Is as a melancholy, they can't approve of other people, but they need other people's approval. So it's a really bad spiral to get into. And this is the friendship relationship weaknesses. They tend to live through others. They'll be the voyeurs on Facebook they don't say a lot maybe, but if other people are going to parties, they're living through that. They're insecure, they're withdrawn, they're the introverts. If the sanguine is the extrovert at the party, the melancholy is the introvert sitting at home reading about it on the internet. They are often critical of others and can hold back affection. If they are truly devoted to one person, they will give 100% to that person. But because they're so critical and cautious, they, pull away from people. They do not like anybody in opposition. It feels like a personal attack. They're often suspicious of people. They're antagonistic. They're vengeful. If somebody hurts them, they want to get back. They want to get back at them. That's what they do. And usually what they think has happened to them is made up because they are so suspicious of other people. So where somebody might not have meant anything by something, they jump in and, well, I'm going to get them back because they said that about me. Often unforgiving. Unforgiving in actions, also unforgiving in, like if you tried to compliment somebody, what did they mean by that? Why did they say I looked good today? Did that mean I looked bad yesterday? Oh, I see what they did. I see what they meant. And full of contradictions. I feel like a melancholy is the person that you just won't understand, that you'll try and try, and at the end of the day, you're just going to be like, you know what? I don't get it. I don't get who you are. You don't make sense. One day you say you're happy, and the next day you say you're depressed and bipolar. Okay, so that's our 4. Hopefully you found where you fall. Um, Now, the interesting thing is you may notice that, like I said, you may have 22 in one thing and 18 in another, and you're thinking, well, I'm pretty close there. There is a blend of personalities. This can be either something that you've learned. A lot of times, like let's just say, let's say people in a church atmosphere, for lack of a better thing in my head right now. If your natural inclination is to be withdrawn and moody and dark, and you marry, not even, let's say politics, for instance. Let's say you marry a politician or a pastor, somebody that's in the limelight. You automatically have to teach yourself how to step forward, how to advance, how to be out in the public eye. And that's going to be hard for people, but it's a learned reaction. It's not what you're born with. And that's why I said at the beginning of the exam, try to think back to when you were a kid. What was your natural tendency? Was it to be the life of the party, or was it to sit in your room reading books all day? And that's, kind of the gauge. You may have forced yourself. If you own a business, you may have to force yourself to get out there and really meet people and glad hand a lot. Shake, shake, shake everybody's hand, knock on doors. And that may not be your thing, but you have to do it. You have to step into that role. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of reading to you, and hopefully it'll make sense to you. There are normal patterns that people see in everyday life that just step forward. The normal patterns that you might see, the ones that I'm talking about, where you'll have 2 close numbers. They're like buddies, like hand in hand. And the natural combinations, you can be a sanguine choleric, which is a popular person who also likes to be in control. A choleric melancholy, which is a person who likes to be in control, but also has the artsy, detailed side. You probably know that person. There's a melancholy phlegmatic, which is a dark, brooding person, but also very. Try not to be mean. I happen to be related to a melancholy phlegmatic, so it's the person that's back in the chair flipping channels, but at the same time is doing the, oh, woe is me, my feet hurt, I've had such a long day, with no concern for anybody else. And then the phlegmatic sanguine. I'm not even sure if I know a phlegmatic sanguine. I'm trying to think. It's phlegmatic in the laid back, lazy way, but sanguine in the life of the party. I'm trying to think of somebody. I know nothing's coming to mind. If you've known that person that is just not high strung, they're naturally witty and naturally funny, and everybody loves them. And when they walk in a room, it's almost like they're just too cool. They don't have this need to stand up on the table and scream and dance, but everybody wants to be around them, even when they're quiet. If you know that person, that's who that is. And they're called like dominant recessive. So whichever one you have the most number of, that's your dominant trait. Let's see. If you have just like 2 or 3 checks in another column, that's okay. It may mean something just is bleeding over. Pretty much those are insignificant. What we're looking for is the highest numbers here. Okay, unnatural combinations. And this is what I was referring to about things you had to learn to do. It doesn't mean that they're not out there. Just because they're unnatural doesn't mean that they don't happen in real life. It's just that they're not natural. They're not things you're born with. They're usually things you have to learn. And that's the sanguine melancholy and the choleric phlegmatic. Okay, they refer to it as a personality mask, and that's what I was describing earlier. Just learning to hide your true self. Um, let's see. I think I covered all of this part already. The way they describe it, they are a result of outside forces working in our life to make us conform to someone else's concept of who we should be or put on in childhood to survive in a difficult or dysfunctional family living situation. So that's also a good one. If you were abused, if you were in an abusive situation, if your sister was abused, if your brother was abused, if your mother was abused, sometimes we mask with like, for instance, the choleric phlegmatic. If a child is born a phlegmatic and they are very laid back and they don't want to be in the middle of things and they see somebody else hurting desperately, they may have to step up and be the choleric of the family. If you have a drunk father, for instance, that one hits home for me. Um, you have to step up and you have to be the leader, whether you like it or not. And that's one of those just unnatural things. But as you grow up, you embrace that and it becomes part of you. So your inner self is more laid back, but your outer self, what people see, becomes the in charge person. So, yeah, that's one of the things that can happen. I'm going to read, there are 10 reasons that you might see a personality mask. These are the ones. A domineering parent, constantly requiring the child to conform to the personality he wants the child to be. So if you have a parent who wants you to be outgoing and you'd rather sit in your room and read a book, then you're going to be that sanguine melancholy. You want to be the one sitting in your book writing music, and your dad wants you to be the team captain of the cheerleading squad, and that just terrifies you. But to please your parents, you take that step forward. Like I mentioned, alcoholic parent. Number 3, strong rejection feelings. If you don't see love from a parent, you might try to be loved by masking as something different. I said this one already, but any form of emotional or physical abuse, just conform to the demands of the parent. A single parent home, even just a firstborn in not a single parent home, oftentimes will have to mask and be in charge. Whether you like it or not, you just have to step forward and do some jobs that you don't want to do. A legalistic religious home, like I mentioned, you may have appearance and conformance, and it may actually drive a kid the opposite way. It may turn them into a sanguine, where they were very content to be laid back in their room. Your pushing and pulling at them may drive them out. I don't mean out like that, but I mean that might also happen, I guess, or at least feel comfortable coming out. Even rejection in marriage. As an adult, if you are rejected in your marriage, it may change you from being an outgoing, fun person to withdrawing within yourself. You may look at yourself in the mirror suddenly and think, I'm not good enough, and that you may have lived 30 years as one thing, and then all of a sudden something tragic in your life turns you inside. Often you see people hoarding emotional disorders because of that situation. If you have a combination of 3, if you find that like out of 40 you have like you're in the teens on each one, this may be you. Any combination of 3 personalities indicates one must be a mask. Generally, the center of the 3 is the natural, and the one on the end of top and bottom are the mask. So pick your middle one, and that should be who you are at your root, at your center. And combination of 4. I've never met a combination of 4, but feel free to let me know. Write me an email or whatever. If you are a combination of 4, I'd love to hear. If you have a 10, 10, 10, and 10, I'd love to hear your response, how you feel about this. their opinion is that you may not really know yourself, and you may not even care to know yourself. And that's the phlegmatic. That probably means you're a phlegmatic if you really just don't care. It says that there's such a thing as double masked. I've never met a person that's double masked, but you may be so distorted by different experiences in your life that you might not even have a clue who you are. So, those are just some of the things. There's lots and lots of material. I've kept you guys so long, and I do apologize for that. There's so much more material that you can look at. I will be happy to meet one-on-one with you guys if you want to set up. My receptionist out in the lobby will be happy to set up appointments if you do decide that you want to meet one-on-one. I'm trying to think. I think my schedule has Tuesdays and Thursdays open, but any time is really good for me. Shoot me an email, set it up with the receptionist, whatever works for you, and we'll do some one-on-one talking. I'd love to hear some feedback from you on how you feel about your scores, if it's opened your eyes to anything. I do want to just cover a couple of things real quick that you may not have even thought of. And I can go ahead and tell you now. I feel like I can go ahead and just get down to the nitty-gritty here. But I am, as you may have guessed, a melancholy. I score almost non-existent on the other three because I am so strong in melancholy. And what I've found that this helps with is the way I deal in my relationships, the way I handle my relationship with my spouse, the way I handle my relationship with my parents, my children. If I know, for instance, that I am... Oh, so sorry, I keep kicking the desk. I apologize. Let's see, where did that go? Give me just a second. If I know, for instance, that I am critical of others, I'm suspicious of people, I'm unforgiving, I'm skeptical of compliments. If my husband is giving me compliments, I'm automatically going to think, wait, why is he doing that? What's he up to? Is he having an affair? Is he stepping out on me? I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but there is something inside of me that just automatically assumes that terrible thing about somebody. If my mom says that I look good in an outfit, I'm automatically thinking, wait a second, does that mean that I usually look fat, or my butt's too big? Is she trying to say something? It's a terrible place to be, but it's true. And I try to combat that. If I feel those feelings coming on, the reason this test helps so much is I'm now aware of it. Once something has been called delight, it is your problem at that point if you choose to ignore it. If I know, the reverse of that is true also. If I know that my strengths are organizing and paying attention to details, making charts, making graphs, and I go into a workplace and I don't immediately exert myself as that person, then I'm the one at fault there. I may be missing out on job opportunities, on raises, on my in group settings, in a church, in a Bible study, in a play group with mommies and daddies and kids. If I know that that's what I need to do, I need to jump in there. And when they say, who wants to organize this committee, I need to say, hey, me. That's one of my strengths, and I'm good at that. The same thing is true for the choleric. They're the boss. They like to be in charge, and they're good at it. If you're a choleric and you don't step forward and say, hey, I'm a good leader, then I don't feel like you're doing yourself justice. I feel like you're not pursuing every avenue where you could really and truly succeed in life, and you won't feel fulfilled probably. If you're the phlegmatic, try to realize that it works the same way if you're married to somebody. Like, for instance, let's say my dad. My dad is a phlegmatic with a little bit of melancholy. But that means I know that he doesn't want to be bothered. It also means that he's not going to be exciting. He's he's not going to be excited about my plans. If I come in and I've written a song and I'm super excited about it and I say, I want you to hear this, if I get my feelings hurt because he doesn't jump up and down and kiss me and woohoo, that's so exciting, that's my fault. Shame on me. I know that about him. It's my husband and my dad there that I was talking about. They're both real laid back, real chill. And you just kind of have to see that in other people. There's a book, another study that I do called Love Languages, and it's how you best receive love and how you give love. And some people are touchers and they feel and they want to be touched, and other people don't want to be touched at all physically. They would rather be touched emotionally, or they need the gift of your time. I need the gift of time. I don't need the gift of presents. When people give me presents, it's very nice, but anybody can buy trinkets for me. That's a complete stranger can walk up and give me a necklace. I want your time. I want your words of affirmation. And those are just important things to learn about yourself, about the person that you're with, about your children. I can already see in my 2 children that my daughter is going to be a little headstrong. I think that she's very, when we take pictures, she's not going to be in the front of the pictures going like other little girls. She's not going to want to be in pageants. She's going to be nose in a book or playing the drums, that kind of thing. She's a little bit grumpy, a little bit moody, and I'm not saying that that can't change, but for now, that's where she is. My son, on the other hand, he loves attention. He loves to smile. He loves to laugh. He loves to be cooed at and tickled, and anybody that talks to him, he just giggles. So you can see those natural tendencies coming through in everything they do. So I encourage you, if you have a spouse, a friend, a best friend, that kind of thing, and you really want to have your eyes opened to how you can better relate to that person, how you can have them better relate to you, take the quiz, take it with them, have them take it, and go through the results together, and just try not to hurt each other's feelings. What you do not want to do, especially for people like a phlegmatic, is do that. Oh yeah, that's you. Oh yeah, that one's you. Yeah, that's you. That will drive a phlegmatic crazy. And I can tell you right now, the phlegmatic will stop taking the test at about question number 5 and say, I don't care, this is boring. The phlegmatics aren't really even watching this anymore, probably. They're probably the ones asleep because they're bored. And that's okay. That's fine. Anyway, I guess that's about all. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to set up a time. I think, who was it that had a time set up? It was you? If you will, okay. If you will, just here. Sorry. If you will, just fill out the bottom section right here and right here, and basically it just says, when you want to come back. You guys can all see that. It's just a little form. It's out on my receptionist's desk. And just fill out when you want to come back, what day is best for you. That's fine, and I'll go ahead and sign it. Okay, so it has my signature. We're good to go. And then just slip it back in my office in the door slot there, and that's fine. Okay, excellent. Good. Okay, for the rest of you. Yeah, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry it went a little long, but hopefully you've been able to learn a few things. If not learn a few things, perhaps relax a little bit personally hope to be leaving soon. I need a nice long nap. Thank you guys so much for being here. It means a lot to me. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you later.